Welcome to Monday Morning Dharma on July 13th. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and settle in for some meditation, training the mind, calming the mind, experiencing the mind. We can mount the three-word mantra on our breath. Inhale, rest. At the top, relax. As you exhale, allow. And repeat this sequence for the next moment or two as a preliminary practice to our meditation. Please gently transition into meditation on the inner body. Please be the silent observer of sensations that may start in your hands and your feet and may or may not travel to other parts of your body. Please just be the silent observer. I'd like you to please bring to mind someone in your life, someone with whom you are acquainted, but might not consider a friend, nor someone toward whom you have aversion. It's just somebody with whom you are acquainted. Please bring this person to mind now. And I'd like you to imagine that this person is seated in the space in front of you, facing you, with their eyes at the level of your eyes. This morning's meditation is on equalizing self and other. And in order to practice this meditation, we can rest with the conclusion, rest with the knowing that this person's happiness is equal in importance to my own happiness. And please just rest with this recognition while continuing your meditation on the inner body. You can recall, of course, that the person seated in the space in front of you is not the only person in the world with whom you are acquainted. Indeed, there are dozens, perhaps even hundreds of people who are acquaintances of yours. So I'd like you to imagine now that all of these people are seated in the space in front of you, immediately behind the person, the acquaintance, who is your primary object of meditation. Then I'd like you to expand your recognition to include all of these people. The happiness of all acquaintances of mine are equal in importance to my own happiness. Please rest with this expanded recognition as you continue meditating on the inner body. And finally, I'd like you to please change your recognition that the happiness of others is equal in importance to your own happiness. I'd like you to please change that recognition to a wish for all of these beings to be happy. Please rest with this heartfelt wish while continuing to meditate on the inner body. Now, now please redirect your awareness. Become aware again of your physical body and allow your breathing to become less shallow. Taking deeper and deeper breaths, become aware again of the garments of clothing resting on the surface of your physical body. Become aware again of your surroundings inside the room that you're occupying. Deeper and deeper breaths, becoming aware again of the world that exists outside of the room that you're occupying. We dedicate all of the positive energy to the happiness and well-being of the acquaintances who were our objects of meditation this morning. May they experience ease, peace of mind, inner and outer freedom, inner and outer happiness. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Thank you. Welcome back. So, these meditations that we've been doing on equalizing self and others both in our Monday, Friday classes and our Tuesday, Thursday group meditations, we're sort of picking as our objects of meditation different kind of groups of people. One of our meditations was on people for whom we have some aversion, some acquaintances, some loved ones. And with regard to wishing for the happiness of others, equalizing self and others, I think there's a continuum. And here goes my thinking mind. It's just kind of what it does is categorizes and ranks and stuff. But I think the easiest for us, easiest group of people for us to have loving kindness and equalizing self and others are people we love, people who we're fond of. Kind of the next groups are maybe strangers, maybe acquaintances, maybe we can reverse those two. And then people for whom we have aversion. Those are kind of the hardest ones, I think, for us to cultivate an authentic wish for happiness or an authentic equaling of self and others. I remember when I kind of first got on this path, I was out in some public place, and I think it was an airport, and I was walking around like wishing for the happiness of everyone in there, everyone in the airport, and I was like so proud of myself and so kind of haughty, if I'm being completely honest. And I told my teacher then, it was my very first meditation teacher, I told her I was in the airport and I was just like abiding in this blissful state, wishing for everybody to be happy. And it was so great. And she said, yeah, she said, strangers are easy. She said, they don't push your buttons. You don't know them. And so they can't get on your nerves. And although I knew she was right, I was a little deflated after that. Anyways, we're going to go into the next lamb rim. The next lamb rim, and I'm going to talk about the title, the wording of this next lamb rim. Lamb rim, of course, being stages of the path. I'm going to talk about how this particular lamb rim is titled in the new meditation handbook, as well as Joyful Path of Good Fortune, for those of you who are following along in the unabridged version. And the title of the next lamb rim is The Disadvantages of Self-Cherishing. The disadvantages of self-cherishing. So we'll talk about that. Hold that thought for a minute. As a means of wading into these waters, I want to read you an excerpt from my favorite novel, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And for those of you who are looking for a good summer read, yeah, I mean, that's kind of when we read novels for a lot of us, I don't know, in the summertime. And most people, when I talk about Siddhartha, have you ever read this? Or like, yeah, but it's been a long, long time. Read it again. It's such a great book, such a great book. And the excerpt that I want to share with you is the point in which the main character, Siddhartha, has met and has had a one-on-one exchange with the Buddha. And Siddhartha has identified what he considers to be a flaw in the teachings of the Buddha, of the doctrine. And what I'm going to read to you now is the Buddha's response to Siddhartha's statement, I found a flaw with your teaching, and here it is, Buddha. Okay. And just to refresh, just for context again, because the word Brahman is used in here in the story. Siddhartha, the main character, was previously a Brahmin in a wealthy family. Okay. So the Buddha had listened quietly, motionless, and now the perfect one spoke in his kind, polite, and clear voice. You have listened well to the teachings, O Brahman son. And it's a credit to you that you have thought so deeply about them. You have found a flaw. Think well about it again. Let me warn you, you who are thirsty for knowledge, against the thicket of opinions and the conflicts of words. Opinions mean nothing. They may be beautiful or ugly, clever or foolish. Anyone can embrace or reject them being opinions. The teaching which you have heard, however, is not my opinion, and its goal is not to explain the world to those who are thirsty for knowledge. Its goal, the teachings of the Buddha, its goal is quite different. Its goal is salvation from suffering. That is what I teach, nothing else. Really powerful. One of my favorite excerpts. I've got like maybe 1,000 favorite excerpts from this novel. And I just want to invite you to keep this in mind as we go through this next Lam Rim, which can be difficult, can be challenging, and can be misunderstood. And some of us may develop objections toward this teaching, and that's okay. That's okay. I would just invite you to keep in mind the teachings or the words from the novel by Hermann Hesse. What is offered through this path is a means of salvation, salvation from suffering, salvation from samsara, salvation from uncontrolled rebirth. This isn't about anybody, Buddha or anyone else, trying to tell you what you should think in accordance with their opinion or the opinion of the Buddhist doctrine, right? These practices are meant as a means of salvation from suffering. So let's talk about this, the name of this Lam Rim, the disadvantages of self-cherishing. Used to be even more attention grabbing. The title used to be the faults of self-cherishing, the faults of self-cherishing. And I personally have difficulty with the term self-cherishing and presenting it as something that we should regard as a disadvantage, something that is to be abandoned. And the reason for this is a story that I may have told in our classes before. In another life, I was a hypnotherapist, and I did my training in Santa Fe. It was a 2-month training in hypnotherapy, and the students would, this sounds more dangerous than it really is. We would practice our hypnotherapy protocols on each other, but under the supervision of an instructor, right? And we had different protocols that we would follow in hypnotherapy, kind of different scripts almost. And I had done a few different scripts with a few different fellow students. And it always came back to the two sides of one coin in terms of sort of like what was at the root of the challenge that the student was experiencing or having, or the trauma or the blockage or whatever it might be. It almost invariably came down to self-hatred or lack of self-love. You know, one side of the coin, self-hatred. The other side of the coin, lack of self-love. And I said this when I saw this pattern developing, I pointed this out to the instructor who was supervising my doing the hypnotherapy. This is over a course of days, right? And I said this to her. It seems like I said it seems to keep on coming back to self-hatred, lack of self-love. And she just looked at me and she just said, "All roads lead to Rome." You know, claiming that from her perspective, that's kind of at the root of what ails us. And I think that's pretty close. It's pretty close. I think what really ails us is us clinging, grasping at and clinging to an inherently existing self, an inherently existing I. But in terms of what ails us day to day, yeah, I think as a society, as a Western society, lack of self-love or self-hatred is really an issue for us. And it's for that reason that I don't like using the expression self-cherishing within the context of this is to be abandoned, this is an undesirable or a disadvantageous thing. And you may be wondering, and if you are, it's a good wondering. So why do they use this language in these Lamrim meditations? Why do they talk? Why do they use the expression self-cherishing as in a disadvantageous thing? Well, another story that I heard involved the Dalai Lama, and who himself is a Tibetan, and he was speaking to a more intimate audience. I mean, you hear about the Dalai Lama speaking, and it's to 70,000 people in a football stadium. Somehow, some way, this was a more intimate group, and somebody asked a question about self-hatred. The person said, "What about self-hatred? How does this teaching on the disadvantages of self-cherishing sync with that?" Dalai Lama had no idea what they were talking about, what this person was talking about. It was a completely foreign notion to the Dalai Lama that someone would have self-hatred, would have contempt for themselves. They had to interrupt the teaching for, I'm told, like 15 minutes while the interpreter tried to explain to the Dalai Lama what self-hatred is. Totally foreign thing to him. So I kind of reconcile this. Why do they use that term? Because in Tibet, it apparently just isn't a thing. Why that is, I don't know. I don't think that's the thread we necessarily go through. I'm just going through sort of my reconciling of the use of this. And sort of the last thing I want to share with this context setting and like prologue to the teachings and discussion on the disadvantages of self-cherishing is that I would invite us, and I think going forward, I'm going to substitute the expression self-cherishing with self-centeredness, self-centeredness. And even then in Western society, like self-centered, you're calling me self-centered, let's take this in a totally objective sense, this term self-centeredness. And this also may be difficult to hear, but for most of us living our day, for the overwhelming majority of us, as we live our daily lives, our self, we are at the center of everything. It's not like a disparaging, not meant as a disparaging comment, it's just meant as an objective truth. Almost everything we do, without exception, is in the name of making ourselves happy. It is our self is the center, like literally, of our existence and everything that's important to us. So we'll talk about that more on Friday, but let's just kind of go forward maybe with this common vernacular, this common frame of reference. How about that? Okay. Don't hate me for saying we're self-centered. Okay. Don't develop aversion for me. Okay. Don't shoot the messenger. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Grace. Bye, Marty.